Guys, welcome to the show. Before we get started this morning, I want to thank you guys specifically for your loyal support of this podcast. I know we're running into tough times right now. Everybody is staying home and following the CDC guidelines, which is good. We just got to do this for a little bit longer and help stop the spread of this virus. And I know it's getting hard, but let's just stay strong and keep following the guidelines. It's going to be best for everybody. I want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com Insider. Guys, we're right in application season. If you want to sign up for Insider, which I highly recommend you do, go to GoHunt.com/JScott. You're going to get a $50 GoHunt Gear Shop gift card just for signing up. I also want to thank GoHunt, the optics department. Cody Nelson, my friend of 20 plus years. He's the optics manager. If you guys are looking to buy any optics at all, give Cody a call, 702-847-8747. You can also text him or call him on his cell, 602-399-3699. I want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. KUIU is the gear that I wear on all of my hunts. I routinely, bi-weekly actually, question and answer on my Instagram. I answer a lot of KUIU questions. Go to KUIU.com to order all of the great ultralight hunting products. That's KUIU.com. I also want to thank Phonescope.com. Use the JScott20 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount. OnXMaps.com. Use the JScott20 promo code. You're going to get a 20% discount there at Onyx Maps. And then Apex Ammunition. Go to apexmunition.com and you can find out all about and order the TSS, the Tungsten Super Shot, which is the shotgun shells that I'm going to be using on my upcoming turkey hunts here this spring. Thanks to the TSS, great dense pattern. We're actually shooting 7, 8, 9 shot, so much smaller shot sizes. Great dense patterns, and guys are having huge success. I can't wait to use it this spring. I want to thank Apex for their sponsorship. Guys, I know this is tough times. Again, let's just all stay together. Let's follow the guidelines, and we're going to get through this. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we're going to be talking Colorado with my friend Connor Clark out of Gunnison, Colorado of Trader's Rendezvous. Also Colorado Antlers on Instagram. Connor, how you doing?
Good, Jay. How are you?
Good. You know, the last time I saw you was I could easily say that I'd never flipped a raft before, and then the next time I see you, I'll say, well, this is post-raft flipping.
Yeah.
Connor saved me on the Gunnison last year. My friend MJ Mastalier and Monty Parsons, we drove over, and the green drakes were hatching. I had a couple buddies tell me the green drakes were hatching over there, and so we went over there and we put in at Almont and floated down. We were going to go down through the water park, and I'd never floated that section, and I ended up having to call. We had stopped in at Trader's Rendezvous right there on the main street there in Gunnison, and saw Connor and his dad, and it'd been a couple of years since I'd been in Trader's Rendezvous there in Gunnison on that main street, and stopped in there and saw a bunch of antlers and a bunch of cool stuff in the shop, and had a good conversation and grabbed a little breakfast, and we headed to the river. And the next thing I know, I'm calling Connor going, I just flipped the boat. Do you have anybody that can come help us out here? And Connor had guys out there within 30 minutes to retrieve the boat. So thank you, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad everybody was okay, but I got to ask, the wallet, that's no-go. That never showed back up?
Not only the wallet, but neither one of the fly rods or the oars or the Yeti cooler or probably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of flies. I had just loaded up my big fishing bag with every one of my boxes, and not only that, I had just filled every box for the season because, it was kind of kicking off, last year with the late snow melt and stuff. It was kind of a late year, so I had just restocked like all my grasshoppers, all my salmon flies, all my green drakes, like all my dry flies, everything. And I lost literally everything. It looked like a Cabela's plane had crashed and ended up probably down in Blue Mesa Reservoir.
Well, yeah. Good news is it's just stuff. I'm glad you guys made that okay, because it was a late year. That runoff was still pretty high when you guys. I mean, what were you guys here? June, July?
It seems like that was around beginning of July. I'd have to look back at my notes, but it was such a late runoff year. We actually from Almont down to Gunnison, the water was still flowing way too fast to really have those pockets open up nice from the boat. And we had the drakes actually just started coming off kind of down by the bridge right before the water park, just above there, and everything was going fine. And for the listeners out there, so I row a 13-foot Star inflatable raft, and I've been rowing since 2010. And I do the Gunnison Gorge every year, and I do a lot of different places. I mean, I would say I'm very capable. I'm very capable. That no more than that, but very, very capable behind the oars. And I've never flipped. And all my guide buddies, are like, well, it's not a matter of if you flipped. It's just a matter of when you'll flip. And I kind of always laugh like, I hope it doesn't happen. And so we row under the bridge, and everything's fine. I mean, my guys are literally fishing, and come into that first. There's like a slick, and it kind of drops down. And it all boils down to just, and I just took the main chute and was, I got MJ on the front. He's casting, literally like no care in the world. And we come down that first slick, and about halfway down, I realized, oh crap, this is one I need to be like rowing and powering into. It was too late. We pull up, we come down and hit the first wave, the big wave at the bottom. And we go up onto the wave, and we're just sitting there. And it felt like, 30 seconds, but it was probably 2. And at the point when I realized, when I was forward rowing, trying to push through it, when I felt the boat just, we're cresting, if you will, if the listeners, we're cresting up on a wave, and I felt the back end of the boat just start to go backwards, which means the back of the boat is now going to hit the water, the slick water that's coming, fast, creating. It's a man-made wave. They make it. It's a wave park, and the back of the boat hit that water coming in, and we flipped so fast. I mean, I didn't even have time to tell the guys we're going over. Like we're in the water, and then, I pop up, and I look up, and my guys are swimming, so I know, okay, that's good. And the rest is history.
Geez, hey, well, if it makes you feel any better, I flipped my wife on that same rapid in a ducky, like an inflatable kayak, on like our third date, so I know how you feel.
And she still said yes. And you guys just had a baby, so I guess not all is lost, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It was kind of crazy because the rafting company that it came out, he said there had been 7 boats on that exact wave that had already flipped that week, and I was just like, okay, I don't feel quite as bad now.
I mean, that's one of those ones where if you don't know, you don't know to power through that one, and it will suck you back in. And the next 2, you can kind of just ride it out, but that first one, you got to kind of stay to the right and really, really get down like under that bridge and start heading for it. But I mean, there's no way to know until you get into it.
Yeah, so I got a good lesson there, and to be honest, of all the places to flip a raft, it's probably the best place. I mean, we were able to get to it. I mean, it wasn't like it was in the Gunnison Gorge, and like you said, you live around it. You're born and raised in Gunnison. People, they drowned every year, and it's something we kind of laugh about flipping the boat, but it's no laughing matter. Like, people die, and it's one of those things that hopefully it'll be another 10 years before I flip again. But, so that was the last time I saw you. Today I want to talk about the Colorado hunting applications. I believe we have a deadline coming up here on April 7th. And I want to talk to you. You and your dad, you've been such a fixture there in Gunnison and the Gunnison Basin, and I thought this would be a good time to get a good feel of what's going on in the Gunnison Basin. So, Connor, we're sitting here with the April 7th deadline staring us in the face. What are conditions right now compared to historical averages there in the Gunnison Basin?
I'd say animals are looking really healthy, really good. This is a winter that I would consider average. We haven't had an average winter in a while, but by this time of year, you should have snow on the north side. South side should be bared off on the valley floor. But the last few years, last year you talked about the late runoff on your fishing trip, and we got snow on June 23rd, which was my wife and I's anniversary last year, so it was really heavy winter last year, drought before that, and another heavy winter before that. So we're thinking that this is going to hold some promise. With the animals looking really healthy, so I'm hoping that we didn't take too many out on the highways last year and hunting seasons, and increasing the tags. But overall, I'd say that the health of all the populations, they look really good.
One of the big things that's going on, and we're just going to dive right into it, go for the juggler here. One of the things that's going on in Colorado right now is the DOW has announced, obviously with the regulations, the season dates, and this year as well as next year, with next year being the 2021 dates for the mule deer. The third and fourth seasons are really, really late. I know that they were kind of starting to talk about that. I believe when I was in your shop last July, when I saw you, they were proposing these late dates. And there's two sides to the story, but explain to me from your perspective, growing up in the Gunnison Basin, what those late season dates mean to mature deer, in your opinion.
I listened to your podcast with Brady, and he wasn't sure that it would be necessarily a bloodbath. In my opinion, I think it's going to be. I really do. He was talking about, that one buck that he was chasing, and he was a ghost all third and fourth, and then as soon as fourth ended, he showed up like clockwork. In my opinion, that's a buck that should survive. If they're going to make it through archery, muzzleloader, second season, third season, and fourth season, at the dates they are now, they should be able to survive and reproduce for the next year if they're that smart. So it's a big bummer for me. I'm trying to get in while the getting's good, because this is not a sustainable hunt. I think the later you push the dates, the more deer are going to get killed, the more mature bucks are going to get killed, and I really think that it will be a detriment to the Gunnison Valley.
Well, let's back up. Let's back up for just a second. You're saying it's a detriment. The reality is it's the number of tags. It's not as much the season dates. Yes, we will stipulate that the season dates are late, and deer are going to be on winter range. They're going to be way more visible, and a lot of the mature bucks are going to get shot because they're basically out in the open, right? But The reality is it's more about that the numbers didn't come down. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I hear you saying is you're more upset about the fact that the numbers stay the same as far as high numbers, but they also moved the dates where they're going to be sitting ducks. Would you have been okay with the later dates if they'd cut the numbers way back? So it actually makes the hunting unbelievable, but we're going to cut the numbers way back because we don't want to wipe out our mature bucks.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. And I know the Gunnison Valley, the hunters of the Gunnison Valley are very outspoken. We make it a point to make our point heard, and so we have had conversations with the Division of Wildlife on, hey, we got to cut tags. This is no way to sustain this, and I think we're in a point now where we're getting a better relationship with our local office, and I know they've got a lot of different pressures, with parks coming into the whole picture, and all of these people to, please in Denver, they've got their own bosses, but we're really pushing them to be defiant in the fact that we need to protect the resource that we have, and in my opinion, that's not protecting the resource. And the thing about Colorado is it's a very, very diverse state as far as terrain and climate goes. So, these later season dates aren't going to affect those desert hunts as much as they will these hunts, because it's the Gunnison Basin. They can only go so far until they hit the valley floor, So I think I think it's really going to hurt places like that, the Kremling region, the Eagle region, just because those deer, they will come down, and they're going to be pretty easy to locate. So it's kind of hard to justify blanketing, the whole state with that season structure when Gunnison and Eagle, they should have a different season structure, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think you make several good points there. One of them is you live in a diverse state. You talk about the terrain and the topography and the animals, but people too. I mean, you've got both sides of the spectrum. I mean, you have as far left and as far right as you can get, and there's a collision there. And it seems like a lot of the decisions, unfortunately, in Colorado, I'm only there half the year. I have a second home there, but it's that the unfortunate part is it seems like the decisions get made by people that live in the two biggest cities in Colorado. And that doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with the game and fish, but they're influenced by that. And so what's unfortunate is that, the situation where Eagle County, you've got the Gunnison Basin, you've got some of these places where having a seasons or having season dates just set, and this is what they are, you make a good point that it may be great for the deserts or the plains out here, but right here in this bait doesn't match. So, I'm sure the DOW guys, I'm sure that they felt the pressure from the locals, because from my perspective, being a non-resident, like, oh, it's great for me. I'm going to show up and, I've been putting in for however many years, and I'm going to show up on my third or fourth season and have a phenomenal hunt and whack a big buck, and then I get to leave and don't come back for 20 years. And you guys are the residents that have to, those are, in essence, those are your deer, and, that's your livelihood, and that's the deer that you guys love. That's your home. Definitely. So I see both sides. It's hard for me as a non-resident, spending as much time as I do up there in the summer, realizing that, you guys, mule deer, right, you've grown up with them your whole life, and it's hard for you to see them just absolutely get pummeled out there. Not only that, and here I am getting on a rant, but not only that, but it seems as though Colorado has killed the golden goose as far as the elk. I mean, Colorado was always known for their elk hunting and, still known for their elk hunting, but the reality is that herd, in my opinion, the hunting conditions, the quality of the hunt, the experience has dramatically decreased. Now, and Colorado is known for big, beautiful, giant mule deer. It's known as probably one of the best mule deer states in the country, and a move like this could have lasting impact, lasting effects for a long, long time if, a bunch of big deer just get whacked out in the Gunnison Basin and all the different units. I mean, it's going to take years for them to rebound. And then you throw in the fact that potentially could have a winter kill. You could have a double up. You could have your big bucks get whacked, and you could have winter kill and kill the rest of them, and that could be something that lasts decades.
Yes, yeah, and we finally started to crawl back, from that 07, 08. We started to get back up there, but I know that our local office, they do not want that reputation for the Gunnison Valley, but this is my philosophy. We will never outrun that reputation, ever. I mean, we are the Gunnison Basin. Regardless of if we take our buck-to-doe ratio down to $20 for 100 does, we will always have that reputation, and people will spend their points to come here because they've heard all these things, And I totally understand what you're saying, too. I mean, if you're a non-resident and you've got 14 points, it's like, of course you're going to take advantage of these late seasons. I would do the same thing, but like you said, we have to live with it. We have to see the effects of what this is going to do when we fight tooth and nail all year long for our big deer. And yeah, it's a never-ending battle. It feels like we lose a lot of times, but we are really trying to work closely with our local office and try and change things to where it can work for everybody, including the people that live here.
Yeah, for sure. So it's an interesting thing going on. Obviously, the guys listening, you understand that, there's some very passionate arguments on both sides, for sure, and rightfully so. Let's talk about Colorado in general. I've covered a lot of different things on these episodes talking about Colorado, but one of the things that I didn't cover this year that we've covered in years past is in Colorado you can actually apply for a preference point, but then apply as a second choice. There's actually some units that you can get a lot of second season tags and it not affect your preference point. And a lot of people don't know that and understand that you're trying to build points, but you can still go hunting in Colorado. Can you explain how that works?
Yep. Yeah. So it's not like Arizona where they're going to run a couple of your choices. Your second choice will not cost you any points at all. So you can put in what I do. I never put in for a preference point. The code for a preference point. I just put in for a unit that I'm not going to draw. So let's say 44 four-season deer. I put that first choice. I know I'll get my point. And then what I do is, if you guys don't have Go Hunt, you should probably get it. But you can go on Go Hunt, look at your second choice options. Say I want 50% more public land, and kind of go through that. If you don't have Go Hunt, check out the online stats for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. You can just Google CPW deer stats, and it'll pop up and it'll show you the 2019 draw recap. And you're going to want to click on that. And you can look through there and see how many people put in for a second choice. So it'll say total choice 1, people that put in, first choice, total choice 2. And then you can look to see if those people that put in choice 2 actually drew the tag. So if you see people are drawing, maybe you got only a 20% chance to draw a second season or second choice, but you still got a chance at maybe one you want to put in for. So really look hard at that, at how many people are putting in for those second choice tags and seeing how many of them are drawn. But yeah, there's definitely good opportunity. I personally, that's what I like to do. I like to bang my points and try and hunt as often as possible. I think that's our best tool as hunters. If you want to learn how to kill elk, you better go kill elk. Same goes for deer. So you got to get that experience. So I'd say look for opportunity. If you're going to want a really quality hunt, then save those points, because that's a year off your life. That's what I always tell people. If you miss an application day, that's a year off your life that you're never going to get back. So make sure you are gaining those points, but definitely a possibility to draw some second choice hunts. So look at those.
Yeah, thank you. Let's continue talking about mule deer in the Gunnison Basin. We want to talk about archery first. And in your opinion, what are some of the units that are, better for archery hunting, better archery hunt units there in the Gunnison Basin?
Obviously 55. 55 has been, notorious for a while. A lot of high country. There's a lot of, big deer hunters that are chasing deer up there whenever they can. And I didn't write down the archery stats on that. But yeah, you're probably looking at 5 points as a resident, and probably about 8 as a non-resident, maybe even more for that 55 tag. That's typically one of the most popular ones because of the accessibility. You can drive a lot of those timberline roads, and whereas other units in the Gunnison Basin are not. 54, 66, you're going to be, that's a mountain house backpack hunt for those type of deer. So 55 is usually a pretty popular one just because you can cover a lot of country and see a lot of deer. But like I said, it's in my opinion, I think a lot of the top end actually gets killed archery and muzzleloader. I think a lot of top ends do get killed in third and fourth season, but I'd say a lot more get killed early season just because they're visible. And that doesn't mean that everybody's going to go out there and shoot a buck when they draw a tag. I had my first archery deer tag this year, and it was amazingly frustrating. I mean, I I loved every second of it, but, well, I should take that back. Maybe not every second, but I did really, really enjoy that. So, yeah, I will, but I mean, I blew a lot of stocks. I blew a lot of stocks on the same deer, and it's, you know, they're evading lions and people all year long, so to outsmart a buck with your bow is definitely a feat for me. I mean, that was a dream of mine, and I'm glad that I made it happen. But yeah, it's not a shoe-in by any means. But yeah, I'd say 55 is definitely a good popular unit with lots of high country.
And then as you move into muzzleloader, I would probably bet that you're going to say that those muzzleloader hunts are pretty parallel with the archery. But then as we get into the second, third, and fourth season, some of those unit dynamics change. I was talking a little bit about that with Brady on the podcast, Brady Van Sickle, about how some great high country archery hunts, in September, and the muzzleloader hunt can be great, and then all of a sudden those same units, 44 is one of those examples where
that's what I was going to say.
It's not a great, I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not a great high country hunt, but it's a great late season other than the private land. You've got some of that in the Gunnison Basin as well.
Yeah, and I'd say, I mean, it is so confusing. I'm learning more talking to the biologists, looking at Colorado and kind of seeing where the deer migrate, but they make huge migrations here in Gunnison. I mean, you're looking at 25 to 30 miles, no problem to their wintering ground. So those deer are going to move. I mean, regardless, we had really, really rough conditions this year in the later seasons, but those deer will come out of the woodwork. Even with the rough conditions, it goes more by the calendar than it does by the conditions. Definitely snow helps, but by the third day of fourth season, I started seeing bucks that I'd never seen before that just started popping out of the woodwork. So I'd say the thing about archery hunting is if you've got that timberline, you're able to scout and pick out a buck that you want. So third and fourth season hunts, they're more of I just hope that by chance I see one, because you can't necessarily pattern those deer where they're going to make that migration route. So you're kind of just driving around looking at new bucks and trying to find one, but you're not focused necessarily on one deer.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Let's talk a little bit about elk. Your experience with OTC elk, I'm sure being a resident, you probably hunt some of the limited entry units more, but I get tons of questions about people asking about, what are some of the better OTC elk opportunities?
Okay, yeah. Like you said, I primarily hunt the Gunnison Basin for archery, which is it's going to be draw only, but a lot to the west of us that are pretty good OTC units. I've spent some time over there deer hunting, elk hunting with friends. I've never personally had a tag over there, but you're looking at 65, 63, 53, 62, 521. 65 is going to be backed up to 66, kind of north or south of Montrose, towards Telluride. There's a lot of up to San Juan. A lot of really rugged high country there. 62 is obviously backing up to 61, which is a phenomenal unit, and I think probably one of the better ones in the state. And 63, 53, 521, they kind of all back up to the Gunnison Basin. So you've got that high country on the backside of the Gunnison Basin. So I'd say those are probably the units that I know the best, that I would definitely want to look at. But yeah, that's there is opportunities for over-the-counter in Colorado. I do believe here in the near future we will be moving away from that. So if I were you and you want to hunt over-the-counter in Colorado, put in, apply, make sure you get that point, buy a tag, and do it either this year or next year, because I don't think the over-the-counter licenses are sustainable. And I kind of heard Brady talk about the quality of the hunts, and that's kind of a hard one for me. We have over-the-counter second and third rifle elk in Gunnison. I will not draw a deer tag third or fourth season or second season, or no, second or third season in the Gunnison Basin in those over-the-counter units, which are 54, 55, and 551, because of the hunt quality. Not every.
In other words, you have so many people around that it just you can't even go anywhere without someone being there.
No, you're driving up a road and there's 7 campers and elk hanging in trees, and they're not deer hunting, they're not taken away from your deer hunt, but they are, in my opinion, just the quality of the hunt. I mean, I want to go out and I want to have a good quality hunt. I don't want to be fighting for elbow room with people. So I personally, I do not hunt over-the-counter rifle seasons, even with the deer tag, even though it's not over-the-counter, because a lot of times you run into a guy and, maybe I saw a big buck, and I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, and tells me where it's at, and I go glass it up, and it's a 140-inch 4-point, and I'm like, yeah, that's not quite what I'm looking for. So I have to really, you want to, when people tell you that, you want to look at it because you don't know if it's a 200 or not, but I end up going on a lot of wild goose chases for bucks that I wouldn't even consider pulling the trigger on. So that's another tough thing. But yeah, the overall, I think archery, you can get further away from people. The rifle hunts, once they start moving down to wintering grounds, you're going to get a high concentration of people and primarily out-of-state hunters.
Did I hear you right in saying that you're hearing that they're going to do away with a lot of the OTC elk hunts?
Yes, well, there's definitely been talk about it, just because like that. And they may do, maybe the first transition would be over-the-counter with caps, which I think is necessary. And we talked about that with them and just said, you've got to cap this because it's ruining, when I'm guiding deer hunts, it's ruining the quality of their hunt. It's ruining the quality of my experience. And then on a year like last year, when you get on that early snow, I'm guiding elk hunts. Was that last year or the year before? Anyways, I'm guiding in 14 inches of snow first season. And it just kept coming and kept coming. So by second and third season, those elk were down in the sagebrush. And it was pretty horrific to watch as, people are lobbing shots at herds and wounding elk. And so it was not, they got whacked that year. And we cut the elk tags pretty severely this year, but we didn't cut the over-the-counter. There's no caps on it at all. So you cut archery, muzzleloader, first season and fourth season, but you leave second and third season with everybody and their mom coming out here to hunt. And that you can't do that either. That's not going to make up for anything if you're just going to cut a portion of the tags. If you want to bring the elk back, you got to cap it.
I remember years ago when they went to limited draw, a lot of the small towns freaked out, the hotels and restaurants and the different businesses, because of so much impact that the OTC hunters had. They were freaked out that it would be turned into a draw. I think a lot of that, and you guys are business owners right there, you can kind of speak to that, that actually I think a lot of it, and this, I'm just speaking out my butt here, but it didn't actually come true, that they actually still had plenty of business with the limited draw as opposed to just over-the-counter. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny because my dad was one of the, they had an outfitting business in 66 and 67, so when they talked about going limited draw, they were like, no, this is our bread and butter. And now looking back, obviously my dad is glad they did it. The quality of the bulls has increased tremendously. We see, I think Gunnison, I hope this whole coronavirus deal, doesn't mess up the tourism industry too bad. I mean, I know it will, but hopefully not for long. But I'd say businesses in Gunnison have probably had the best summer they've ever had this past year. I think it was, economy's good, everybody's traveling, everybody's buying stuff. So no, I don't think the hotels are full. I think that the places in Gunnison, even with the limited entry hunts, are still getting quite a bit of business.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned something there that we had actually talked about before the podcast started about the coronavirus, and last night actually the governor of your state, Polis, actually issued a stay-at-home, I don't know what you would call it, but a stay-at-home deal where order. You guys actually, an order where you actually are ordered to stay in your home. And I ask you, Connor, do you actually know someone with coronavirus? And why don't you tell us what you said?
Yeah, we got about 5,000 people in the town, probably about another 3,000 up in Crested Butte, which is, part of the Gunnison Valley. It's north of us. But it started here. Someone came back from traveling and brought it to Crested Butte. The problem with this whole virus is the 10-day incubation period. So you're passing the germs to a lot of people before you even are symptomatic at all. So it ended up traveling from Crested Butte down to Gunnison, and now we're kind of in the hot zone here, where we have, I think, 70 confirmed cases, and then about 500 and something online diagnosed that they get on, reported as symptomatic is what they call it. So we've got a lot of people here. I got a friend of mine he's a couple years older than me, so, probably early 30s, and he was sent to Grand Junction to get some help, get put on a ventilator, because it's affecting him pretty bad, and it hits people differently. There's people that'll say, oh yeah, I had it and it was not enjoyable, but it was like a flu or like a cold. And then there's other people, even if you're healthy, that it can affect you. So it's a scary time here. Everybody's, closed up shop. We've been, a lot of places in town we're doing, curbside pickup, even Gene Taylor's where I buy my flies and all my outdoor gear, I walk up to the door, say, hey, I need these flies, and they get them and bring them to me. So there's a lot of businesses in town that we're still trying to conduct some business, but now with this new order, it's going to be only the grocery stores, hardware stores, auto parts, auto repair, stuff like that that's going to be left open. Yeah, it's a serious deal. I was kind of a doubter at first, and then I started seeing it firsthand, and it's definitely changed my opinion. I got a 82-year-old grandma that lives here, and I told her 2 weeks ago, lock yourself in your house and don't come out. We'll just bring anything you need. So she's going on walks and being at the house. But yeah, we definitely gotta be considerate of others through this whole thing. I could be a carrier, so I just try to not contact people just in case I am carrying it. I don't want to spread this any more than we have to.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's for it to come and hit such a small community, of 5,000 and 3,000 up in Crested Butte, 8,000 people, and have 60 confirmed cases, I think you said. Which the reality is, if that's 60 confirmed, that's got to mean there's a couple hundred that have been infected and they don't even know it. But it just goes to show how, Aspen had an outbreak. It's just interesting how some of these people flew back to, these areas, and then all of a sudden it just trickles down. And it's crazy because, there's people that say, I had it and I didn't even feel any symptoms. And then you've got a situation like where your buddy, his girlfriend had it, and it was, kind of, not great, but it wasn't the end of the world. And then he gets it, and he's a strapping young guy in good shape, and, they have to fly him to Denver and put him on a respirator. So, it can definitely, hit anybody, and that's why it's important to follow the guidelines and, and just do what we're told and stay in, and it can be serious for sure. So
definitely, it's not enjoyable for any of us. I'd rather be conducting business and making money, but it's for the best. We have not reached the peak yet, so it's like we really have to follow the guidelines until we reach that peak, and not overwhelm everything.
Sorry for the little break there, guys. My little 7-pound attack dog was barking at someone in the backyard. But one of the things that I want to talk to you also about is limited entry elk. We hear so much about 61 and 76 and 201 and Unit 2 and Unit 10. Do you know much about Unit 40? Because I've gotten a couple questions about Unit 40. I know there's quite a bit of private land, but I've never been in it. So do you know anything about 40?
Yeah, actually, my dad had a 40 tag, the Ranching for Wildlife tag, about probably 5 or 6 years ago. So for you, those of you that don't know, Ranching for Wildlife are privately owned ranches that they go under contract with the CPW allow, 1 to 2 hunters a year on it, maybe some cow hunters. But he actually drew that tag with probably, I think, 17 points. We went down there, and it was phenomenal. I mean, but once again, we're on a private ranch. But there was a lot of bulls. I mean, we saw one bull, that was maybe 340, 350, that we couldn't get on. That was the best bull we saw the whole time. But we were on the third, so they have 3 ranches in 40 that are eligible for Ranching for Wildlife. 2 of them are 20,000, one of them is 9,000. So we were on the 9,000 acre ranch. But overall, hunt quality was phenomenal. I mean, the first morning there's about 4 inches of snow on the ground, and probably, no kidding, 25, 30 bulls across the canyon from us, just screaming at the top of their lungs. They truly act like elk, and I'm sure you get to see it at the Odd Six Ranch. When that pressure kind of comes off, they're really able to be elk, and really, they're not scared to be vocal. So that was a pretty awesome hunt. It's a lot like 61 from what I've heard. You're kind of, hunting on mesas, Aspen covered mesas. But my brother's actually he's thinking this year that he's going to draw a first season Unit 40 tag. So we may go over there and turkey hunt here in a couple weeks, I guess, just to see what it's like over there, see what the public's like, because I know the public is very limited. I mean, there was definitely chunks that backed up to the ranch, but it was few and far between. So I think 40 can be a great unit. Once you get those bulls a little stupid and rutted up, they may end up coming off that private. So, but then again, you're going to be competing with the hunters that are doing the same thing. It's well known that there's big bulls on those ranches, so you may be, running into people hunting the fence lines as well, and that is a problem in itself. Even here in the Gunnison Basin, when you're hunting the private boundary, all you're doing is keeping those elk pretty much on the private. You're kind of deterring them from coming on that public because they know the little green men are out there chasing them. So I think 40 is a great unit. I think it's just a little tough. I bet it's probably 50% public land or less. I'm not sure on that one. Gohan will tell you though. But yeah, I have hunted 40 and I did really enjoy it. But once again, that's kind of a different hunt, that Ranch for Wildlife.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit about the Ranching for Wildlife. The Ot 6 Ranch, where I spend September and October, is in the Ranching for Wildlife, and it's a program where, just like Connor says, how it works is these private landowners are able to allow public hunting on the property, and for doing so, they're given landowner tags. And so it's a good trade-off on there's people that don't like it and think that the public's getting taken advantage of and this, that, and the other, but the reality is, from my perspective, I've seen both sides. The reality is it opens up a ranch that would never be open to the public. So,
definitely,
the public, the people that I've heard that don't like it are saying, well, we only get 1 or 2 tags. How is that fair when they, well, you wouldn't get any tags if they wouldn't open it up to Ranching for Wildlife. So, I think it is a good program overall. I think it does give the public access to properties that they would absolutely never have the chance to hunt. So, and in the regulations themselves, there is a Ranching for Wildlife section, and you can actually go in there and see which ranches are available. Now, to be clear, that's only available to Colorado residents. So anyone listening that is a non-resident to the state of Colorado, you understand that program is only for residents. And, they offer them for turkey, they offer them for bear, mule deer, antelope. Basically, all of the animals have the ability to offer for Ranching for Wildlife in the state of Colorado. So it's a pretty neat program. Okay, so we've covered a bunch of ground here. Specifically, you talk about Unit 40, and you mentioned 61. Have you spent much time in 61? Because I know...
I have not.
Okay, and what about 76?
Not near enough. 76, I definitely spent quite a bit of time. I mean, that's pretty close to us. So I have spent. My dad had a tag there as well. I had some buddies that had archery tags. I've hunted around it, and I was banking my points to draw that archery. But point creep's getting pretty bad these days. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm ready to blow my points and start hunting, every couple of years, and I have been able to with that second choice, like you're talking about. But I just don't know if I can wait that long. I'm at 6 now, I believe, going into this draw. And, usually in the past you were able to kind of draw at that 0.7, but I think by the time I catch it, it'll be at 9 or 10. And I would love to go on a good bow hunt down there, but I'm not a bow hunter that says I'm a bow hunter and I only bow hunt. If you give me a steamer or a shotgun or whatever you tell me I have to hunt with, I will hunt with that in the unit. So I'm kind of looking at some rifle tags to get my points into, just so I can start hunting every other couple of years in decent units, with chances at good bulls. But 76, the opportunity is great. When my dad had his tag down there, we were probably calling in 10 to 12 bulls a day. And granted, they were all in that 250 to 280 class, some 300s, 320s. But for opportunity's sake, there is a lot of 6-point elk in 76.
Yeah, for sure. Connor, I want to talk a little bit about Trader's Rendezvous. You and your dad, you have that shop right there in Gunnison, and I just encourage anyone passing through Gunnison, actually anybody passing through that area, make sure you stop in Gunnison. Make sure you put Gunnison as a place that you want to go and check out this summer, and go in there and say hi to Connor and his dad. Just an unbelievable display of antlers. Talk a little bit about what you guys actually do there.
Okay, yeah. So we've been in business since 1988. My dad started it. He actually bought a pawn shop from my grandfather, and it was your typical pawn shop, bikes and whatever else. And he had always collected antlers. They weren't worth anything, but he'd ride around and collect antlers. So kind of started with a little pile of antlers in the store, and then guy by the name of Don Schaffler. He's a big antler buyer. His son took over for him. His name's Tony. But he actually came through Gunnison, and he bought my dad's pile of antlers that was sitting out in the front yard for 25, 50 cents a pound, and he just thought that was something great. So he kind of realized there was a market for that. Started buying a lot of antlers and mounts. So we've got over 500 game mounts from all across the world. We got Marco Polo Argelli, Nile Crocodile, 5, 6 African lions, and a huge wall full of muleys over 200 inches, elk over 400 inches. So we buy and sell mounts, skulls, antlers, chandeliers, collectible Winchester, Sharps rifles, handcrafted knives, art, stuff like that. So that's what we're doing now. So my dad kind of found a niche for his business, and been in business for 32 years, and so everything's going good. But definitely, it's worth seeing if you guys stop by. You'll see the antlers out front, and you'll be like, wow, that's a lot of antlers. Just wait until you get inside, because it is. We take it for granted seeing it every day. We always joke about how we're terrible buck hunters because we have to look at 200-inch deer every day, and then we get out in the field and it's like nothing really tickles us.
It's a complete letdown when you go outside.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you see a 175 buck and you're like, oh, that's a pretty good buck. You're like, what am I doing? Times have changed in Gunnison.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also have at Colorado Antlers, you've actually also started a lifestyle type brand where you're selling hats and T-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and all kinds of stuff. Tell me about that.
Yep. So I actually started kind of doing that in college. I got a business degree in college, but I never had any graphic design experience at all. But I kind of taught myself. My dad was using a stock logo forever, just okay, Trader's Rendezvous Gunnison, Colorado, and our website's always been Colorado Antlers. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make you a new logo. So there's that big 7-point elk shed. We call it the Lucky 7. That's in my dad's house. And it's actually got the Colorado flag in it, USA, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, all the western states. And so we sell hats, stickers, sweatshirts, T-shirts, like you said. Those are all sold in the shop as well. You can order those online. And I'm actually working on, I started another Instagram that's actually Traders Rendezvous, RENDEZVOUS, and that's more of the products that we sell. So if you check that out, it shows the chandeliers, skulls, mounts, all kinds of stuff like that. And so I'm working on an online store for that. That's the only benefit to this whole coronavirus deal is I've had time to kind of start going on that and setting up the infrastructure for the website. So yeah, check out both of those. But yeah, you can stop in, talk to me, get a hat, take home an owl crocodile if you want. It's up to you.
If guys out there are looking to sell some antler, I mean, are you buying?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we're at $14 a pound for brown elk right now. The market is very volatile, and I don't know how this whole epidemic is going to affect the market. But as of today, it's $14 a pound, and we'll kind of just play it by ear and see what happens. But yeah, we're buying antlers pretty much every day, all year.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's always great having you on the podcast. Congratulations on being newly married and having a new baby. And I follow both you and your wife on Instagram, and it always makes me smile to see posts and usually stuff outside and hiking and fishing and hunting and doing all the stuff you guys do. So just keep up all the great work. And you're dang fortunate that your daughter's taken on the looks of your wife.
I know.
Just praise God that happened.
For real.
She's beautiful like her mama and didn't get any of your looks at all.
I know. Hopefully she can hunt like me, but I'm glad she looks like her mama.
It's great having you on, buddy. Thanks for sharing with us. Really appreciate your insight, and I encourage anyone stopping in that Gunnison area, make sure you stop at Traders Rendezvous. It's right off the main drag. You can't miss it. And I'll see you this summer, okay, buddy? Hopefully you'll come fishing with me and won't be scared that we're going to flip the boat.
I will, yeah. I'll come fish with you. I'll tell you, it's power now. Go through it.
You'll be wearing the biggest life preserver ever known to man. That's what you'll be wearing.
Yeah, maybe a helmet, too.
Okay. Yeah, a helmet. You'll show up with a helmet, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
man.
Jay.
Take care.
Thanks a bunch for having me on. Have a good one. Stay safe.
All right, buddy. All right, bye.